Hi, this is Pam Moore, and in this session we're going to talk about making your staff work better. Now, for most practices, your staff are your biggest expense and also probably your biggest headache. So we're going to talk about 4 key tips for making sure that they are less of a headache to you and also that you're making the most out of your investment in their salaries. And we're going to start with knowing how many staff you need to have. Here's the data. The Medical Group Management Association surveys practices across the country, and here's the norm for each of these specialties. This shows you how many support staff per full-time equivalent physician each of these practices typically has. So for each physician, they have this many clinical and non-clinical support staff around them. So that's the baseline. But these standards may not apply to you. In fact, practices who tend to have more staff than the benchmark tend to make more revenue at the end of the day. That's because the physician is able to focus on really driving revenue, really seeing patients, instead of doing all that other stuff that the staff is supposed to be doing. So the benchmark may not be enough. The benchmark may also not be enough for you if you are a very busy physician, because busy physicians need and use more staff. So take the benchmarks for what they're worth. They're just a standard bottom line. You might actually need more. Now, no matter how many staff you have, they're kind of useless to you unless they're working together as a team. Now, I want you to take a moment to think about how your practice works. Picture your practice at lunchtime. Here's what I typically see. It looks like high school. All the billing people, all the financial people are sitting at one table together. All the clinical people are sitting at another table together. And the physicians are nowhere to be seen. They're the cool kids, they went off campus. This is not a team. People who are working for you need to get away from their mindset about their own job and instead be thinking about the goals that are shared for the practice as a whole. That keeps everybody driving toward the same thing. So I love to see a practice that has documented, shared, and transparent goals, ideally around both quality measures, how good a job are we doing clinically, and second, around financial measures. Physicians tend to like to hide this material, but put it out there, put the numbers on the board, show people where you're trying to go, and make it clear to them that their job isn't just to do their little job. Their job is to get the practice as a whole going to where it needs to go. You need to build that team. Here's a second big tip in terms of how to build teamwork among your staff and reduce the kind of headaches that come to you. In too many practices, the physician ends up solving too many staff problems. Now, one key to getting out of that mix is having a flatter management structure. In lots of practices, staff don't even know where to go to get problems solved. They feel like they need to ask somebody for help. They don't know who to ask, and they feel like they can't solve problems on their own. So let me draw a picture for you of a practice I visited not long ago. I was talking to the front desk person. She was in tears because she wanted to make the practice better but couldn't figure out how. And I said, well, how can you not solve these problems? She said, well, the physician tells me one thing. And then the physician's wife comes in and she's got a whole nother idea. And then there's the billing manager and the nurse manager and the front desk manager. And all I want to do is make sure this practice is working towards those goals we have. You don't need to have a manager for every single little thing. If everybody has a shared goal, you can delegate to everyone on the team to feel responsible for building toward that goal. You can delegate and then get out. Let the team solve their own problems. Neither you, the physician, nor your office manager should be dealing with issues like, she parked in my parking spot, or who cleans out the yogurt from the refrigerator. You need to empower your staff to feel like they are contributing and can solve their own problems on multiple levels. Build that team. It'll help if you start right. Now, every time you make a new hire, think about hiring for attitude and acumen rather than experience. I'm going to tell you a story. I went not long ago through a coding workshop. I became a certified professional coder. So I'm in this room with all these people who have been doing billing for medical practices for years, like 20 years. Now, I knew nothing about the topic, but I was sitting there trying to answer the questions like the instructor said, and people were raising their hands left and right. Well, that's not the way we've done it. And the instructor would say, well, you've been doing it wrong for 20 years. Sometimes experience simply makes people more rigid. What you really want is someone with the lights on in their eyes, somebody who's going to learn fast, somebody who understands where the practice is going and is going to be entrepreneurial enough to make the practice get there. It'll help if you do have a written job description. You do need, certain things set up, and you need to make sure that people know what they need to be doing when they come into the practice. It'll also be important when you bring a new person in to review their performance at regular intervals. Instead, what tends to happen in a lot of practices is somebody will be working there for a year, they've made friends, they're kind of embedded in the practice, but the whole time you haven't been happy with what they've been doing. Set up from the beginning the expectation that you'll be talking with staff at regular 3-week intervals to review how they're performing for you, and also for them to give you feedback about what they think is right and wrong about your practice. Make them part of the team right from the start. Now, the final point, if you have somebody on your team who's not helping move the process forward, who's causing nightmares, who can't get their head around where the practice is going, end that relationship. It's painful to terminate someone, especially someone who's been with the practice for a long time, but these are your staff. You are investing in them to get you somewhere. And you need to be fearless in terms of keeping your eye on the ball with what needs to happen. Just do it. This is Pam Moore, hoping you can make the most of your staff. Thanks for listening.